I'm Roy Allen. I represent Subdistrict 1, which is the west side of the fire district.
I'm Alan Curtis. I represent Subdistrict 2, which is Tyhee and north up to the Bannock County-Bingham County line.
I'm Debbie Schell, and I represent Subdistrict 3, which is Pocatello Creek and Buckskin Canyons over to Barton Road.
Since 1979, when the county commissioners formed the fire district, we have always had our services provided for us by the City of Chubbuck Fire Department. We have never had a fire department of our own. And at the end of 2018, the City of Chubbuck contacted us, and there was another fire district also that they were providing services for that was contacted. And we were advised that they were not going to renew contracts with either one of us after our next contractual period. And so we found ourselves needing a fire department. We tried to renegotiate with them and also get a contract with the City of Pocatello or Fort Hall, but we're not successful. It was too expensive and the terms were difficult and we just couldn't do it. So we knew about June of 2019 that we'd have to form our own fire department. Unfortunately, because we had always contracted our services, we didn't have any equipment. We had no fire trucks. We didn't have any personnel, no one to dispatch for us, no radios, and so we had to build a fire department from scratch. We have always had a levy, but we knew that the funds from our annual levy weren't going to be sufficient to purchase trucks and to hire personnel, to buy a station, and all the equipment that it takes to become a fire department. So we determined that we would ask for our voters to support an override levy for 2 years that would provide $500,000 a year, each year, that would help us pay for this fire department. It took a while. We knew that it was going to take months for, even if we passed the levy, for any of those funds to be made available to us. So we used reserve funds that we had in a savings account that we had set aside for emergencies to begin purchasing essential equipment. And when our override was presented to the voters voted in favor, 86% support, and we were able to now know that we could think about where to spend that money. The first full year of override funds, $500,000, was spent on our fire station. And the other funds have been spent on equipment and personnel expenses, and the funds are running down. We're very careful with our funds. We bought used fire trucks. We bought used water tender, and we've been very careful to reserve as much as possible our funds, because we know that the levy override is going to end this year. Our fire chief and the commissioners have evaluated our finances, and we've determined that our annual levy that we receive, that's around $180,000, won't be enough money to pay our expenses. We've determined that we need an additional $320,000 a year, along with that $180,000, which would add up to $500,000 a year, to pay our expenses and to also enable us to set aside funds in a reserve fund so that we can allow that money to accrue and to build up over the years to buy trucks with. Everything we've purchased has a limited service life because we bought what we could afford. And so we know we need this additional funding.
My 5-year, 10-year, 15-year thought processes for the fire district with this levy override that Roy was touching on, it would enable us to avoid a lot of the growing pains that we would experience otherwise. You know, we could jump a huge gap by compensating the firefighters that are volunteering their time and effort by giving them paid call abilities to where they're leaving their jobs potentially during the day and losing that income, and we give them some type of compensation. There would be the ability of buying more apparatus, building a second station up in Subdistrict 3, and providing a training facility for our firefighters where we don't have to go find a department that's willing to share their stuff. We would have it on site, and they could go and use that facility as needed. So with that ability to create more apparatus within the district, we could potentially generate revenue to lessen the tax burden. That's assuming we could get contracted to go fight fires during the summer. We could hire part-time firefighters and employ them during the peak summer months and receive revenue for the district to ease the tax burden. So my long-term goal or plan, personally, whether it aligns with the other commissioners or not, you'd have to ask them, would be to lessen the $500,000 year over year, to where we find that symbiotic relationship between generating revenue and taxing the district.
I think that our top priority, of course, has to be to ensure that we have sufficient funding to be able to operate the fire department as it's been set up. And not only that, but also to build on that strong foundation that we've already laid down. If we should go back to our original levy of about $180,000 a year, that would not be sufficient at all in order to be able to continue to operate the fire department. So I think that has to be priority number one, is to ensure sufficient funding by doing the levy that we've proposed. A second thing is that something all three of us take great responsibility for is the fiduciary responsibility to rebuild those reserves that we've been talking about. Those reserves will allow us to be able to pay for a piece of equipment that may, as we've mentioned, we did not buy new fire trucks, we bought used, and at any point, one of those trucks could fail, and if it's not able to be repaired, we'd need to have the reserves to be able to replace it in order to continue to protect the patrons in our district. It would also be important to have those reserves in order to pay for those wildland fire air retardant drops. Those are tens of thousands of dollars each, and so we have to have those reserves built back up in order to be able to pay for those if needed. Of course, we have lots of other short-term and long-term goals, but I think those two are the most challenging at this point in time.
I'll go back to my first question, and that's, I'm an anti-tax guy, but here I am proposing a tax increase. But the services that the fire district provide are essential services. And in my position, I can vote against raising them past this bar of 500,000. That's the only thing I can do as a commissioner. It's up to the other commissioners to vote how they see and represent their sub-district. So I can vote no against any further increases above that 500,000 total budget increase that we're proposing right now.
The reserve funds that we had on hand provided for us initially to form our fire department They were very important. And we initially set those funds aside to help pay for the airdrops that Commissioner Shell talked about, the fire retardant airdrops for wildland fires, which can be critical to saving homes. That was the reason we had it. They're very expensive, $30,000 to $50,000 a plane load. It adds up real fast. Fortunately, we hadn't had to expend those funds, and we had them on hand. We have a lot of other reasons now to have reserve funds. One of those, as I mentioned earlier, is to a savings fund for us to set aside monies to purchase trucks with. New trucks are very expensive. As Commissioner Sherrill pointed out, the trucks we have are old, and they're going to need to. They have a limited service life, and they're going to need to be replaced eventually, sooner than a brand new truck would, certainly. That allows us to set money aside to make those purchases with as the years go by. We initially, as we asked our constituents to support our last levy override, we made a commitment, the other commissioners and I'm the only one left, to provide a second fire station in the south part of the district, which we feel is a strategic place for that station. And we're currently looking for properties. We have an offer right now. We have a commitment from a property owner for some property there. And we'd love to be able to purchase that property and to plan a station in the years to come to fulfill our commitment and our promises. And so the reserve funds will be important for that. And that's part of why we're asking for the $500,000.
Well, I think the primary reason, of course, is the distance from our current station. And when fighting fires, miles equal time. Okay, and that's how fire departments are assessed, is their response time. And they're doing a great job on response time right now, but there really is no direct route from our station on East Chubbuck Road to the Canyons area and Barton Road. And so I think it's important that we provide similar service to those patrons, similar to the service that the sub-districts 1 and 2 get. That station is in a great location for those sub-districts, and also they can call on Fort Hall and Chubbuck as assists in those areas, but there really isn't anyone to come to the Canyons except for our fire department. So I think that's really important. Another thing is we might be able to get more volunteers if there were a substation in the eastern part of our district. I think people in the Canyons area might be more interested in volunteering because it's a long distance for them to go clear out to Chubbuck, and then if they have a call that's far away, then they've got more distance to cover. So I think that might help recruit some new volunteers as well. So I think it's really important to have something close in all of the areas in our entire district that we possibly can to have good service.
Primarily, when you contract out services with City of Chubbuck, or if we contracted with someone else, we have to keep in mind that those cities provide services to themselves with the same services we're asking them to provide for us. So their fire trucks, their firefighters could be committed on a call someplace, and it has happened where there weren't enough resources when a call came in from our district to provide the services to both at the same time. So the priority must always go to whoever we're contracting with first, and then when resources are made available, they can come respond for us. Having our own fire department means we're our first priority. Also, any purchases that we make of trucks and equipment, that belongs to us and the district. The people that we hire the people that we train are dedicated to us. It's not a side job. We can also offer additional services that a contractor wouldn't be willing to do. Our firefighters, several of them are trained emergency medical technicians. And when the ambulance district needs assistance in our district, they call for us, and we can send a crew out to assist with lifting and equipment and rescue and that sort of thing. Another benefit of having our own fire department is that in our own budget is that we're able to consider building that station out south of town that Commissioner Shell talked about, which will reduce response times, save lives, and possibly even lower insurance rates for the homeowners in those areas.
Ultimately, the taxable value of the district will be lessened as cities annex the district property. That's taxable land that we can no longer get revenue from, and that burden is pushed on to the remaining property owners. So the impact that has is negative for us, but there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, I think there are several benefits to all residents in the North Bannock Fire District. Of course, the first one has to be being able to continue the operation of the fire department. That benefits all of the residents in the district, not just one district. Building those reserves, that benefits all of the residents in the district. And last but not least, I like the idea of not having a 3% increase every year. And we always know exactly the amount that will be levied. It'll be the $500,000, and you don't have to worry about that 3% increase year after year after year. And I think that's a benefit to all of the residents in our district as well.
Homeowners can visit our website, northbannockfire.us. From there, they can navigate to the levy calculator on the sidebar navigation and find specifics and plug in their taxable property value in the calculator located near the bottom of the page in the red box. The temporary levy was for 2 years, $500,000 each year. That expires fiscal year 2021. The permanent override will be in perpetuity. As we approach our budgets each year, that base levy rate should stay the same as we vote on our budget each year, and the permanent override will allow us to find the difference between our base levy rate and the override to reach $500,000. Homeowners have a $100,000 homeowners exemption through the state of Idaho legislation, or 50%, whichever is lesser. And they can find specifics of that as well on the levy calculator website.
You can contact me via email at roy@northbannockfire.us, and many have done it. You can call me on my cell phone or send me a text at 208-317-9056.
The constituents in Subdistrict 2 can call me or email me or text me. Call me and text at 208-244-0959 or email me, Alan, A-L-A-N, at northbannockfire.us. You can find all that information and the other commissioners' information at northbannockfire.us on the Contact Us page.
You can contact me by email at deb@northbannockfire.us, or you can text or call me at 208-863-6710.